Welcome to Command Control Power, the longest-running Apple consulting podcast. For over a decade, we've delivered weekly episodes filled with epic tech support stories, troubleshooting insights, discussions about managing clients and businesses, and interviews with industry colleagues and vendors, all tailored for our pro listeners. We also offer exclusive content through Patreon. This private podcast feed is designed specifically for IT professionals, providing valuable advice and guidance on tackling the more complex aspects of running your practice, working with clients and employees, and managing device fleets. With a modest monthly contribution, you'll gain access to a wealth of advanced Apple expertise, meaningful connections, and a community driven by a shared passion for Apple technology. Visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support to learn more. And now, on to the show.
Welcome to an episode of Command Control Power. I don't know if this is the Command Control Power Air or Pro or just the regular, but here we are. Good to see you, Jerry.
Here we are. We're down one.
We're down one, so I guess it's the regular, not the Pro.
Yeah, he's off in a hotel.
J-Knuckland, I think.
We don't want to date the show, Joe.
Oh, true. Yeah, true. How's it going for you, Jerry? I know you got some clients pulling their usual types of things lately. Is this a Patreon show before we go too far into that?
It is not a Patreon show. It's for the World Wide Web.
Censor appropriately then, but grouse away. What do you got for us?
For starters, I want to clear the air. I mentioned on a couple of shows earlier that we got our puppy. We got a new puppy finally and I talked about, we had looked at puppy mills, like these Petcos and things like that. And we did not get a puppy from a puppy mill.
Nice.
And we had briefly talked about how expensive those are. Even something from Petco is like $3,000, $4,000.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We got a rescue from Texas.
Nice.
A lot cheaper. And it's some sort of a Jack Russell Terrier mix. And it's a female. And she's maybe about 2 years old, and she's already acclimated to the home environment. She was house trained. So I think she's adapting well. So I think
Has she met the bird yet?
She has met the bird, but the bird, I threw out. The bird's in the hallway right now.
You threw the bird out? Oh, no.
I did, because I listened to a most recent show and I said, we got to get rid of it.
Doesn't really fit your audio file, demands, expectations. Yeah, understood. No, I think people don't mind. It's real life. But that's as long as the bird is not too uncomfortable living in the kitchen for a while or hallway or wherever
she's on the other side of the door here in the studio.
Okay.
And
she's close to home then.
Yeah, we're going to bring her back out once we're done.
Gotcha. Nice.
I had a number of things go on this past week, though. Most recently, I just came off the heels of going to a client, and I had maybe mentioned them once before, where they had a Jamf Pro instance that I did not install myself. So I mentioned that price point wise, it didn't really make any sense to move them over to Adigy. So I figured it was a good opportunity for me to learn the Jamf Pro interface. Yeah. So I had a simple request to take two phones that they already had in Apple Business Manager and to just re-provision them, basically wipe them and then just have them join the Jamf Pro instance.
Sure.
And one went very smoothly. When you have these devices, whether they're in Jamf or Adigy, and they're in Apple Business Manager, you've made sure of that. And you could do all these things now. If they're not in Apple Business Manager, of course, you could do all this with the iPhone, which is transformative, which is just amazing. But with any of these devices, to have real good control over them, you need to do scorched earth. So if your clients are bringing their own devices, and this, I know most people who are listening to the show already know this, you really can't successfully fully manage them unless you reset the device. But anyway, so these devices were already in the Jamf Pro full management. And I was fighting with this older iPhone it was an iPhone 12. And for some reason, I could reset it and it would reset. And then it would see the Jamf Pro instance, and it was adding configuration. And then this is the spinner, as you call it, would just spin and do nothing. So I'm like, what is going on? So I did, I think 2 or 3 even DFU restores, because I reached out to Jamf and I said, what's going on? Like, this device is in there. So we checked some provisioning, everything looked good. Yeah. Come to find out, I had mentioned that these phones were already in their group of phones that were in their...
Like their policy or whatever you call the...
They were already in Apple Business Manager.
Oh, Apple Business Manager. Got it.
But one of the employees lost a phone. So he wanted to make that iPhone 12 her new phone. So transfer the number to that iPhone 12. And the iPhone 12 had the number of the iPhone that I had successfully set up, which was an iPhone 15. So that's what was keeping it from not provisioning, was that I didn't have this backstory. The client, of course, was managing devices. He went to the Verizon store. The Verizon technician, let's call him, I have other words for him at this point, did not ever transfer the new number to the iPhone 12. Jamf Pro was doing its job, and it was not adding this phone because the phone was assigned a duplicate number that was already in the Jamf Pro instance. So it just never was able to fully provision. And it just took a while to discover this. And now in hindsight, it makes sense. But this is one of those examples, a glaring example of where the client wants to do some of the tech management, or they just want to do some part of it, and you're not added to the Verizon account. So you can't walk in there as a representative of the company. You're not added to their internet service provider. So you can't call up and say, hey, we're having trouble with the modem. We've got horrible upload speeds. And they figure that, again, they're saving money because they're offloading some of the tech and they're personally handling it. But then they leave the store through no fault of his own. He knew what he wanted to do going in there, but he leaves and the technician didn't successfully do it. But had I had the full backstory, I would have known this right from the beginning, that this phone was not displaying the right. So it just annoyed the hell out of me. And I was there almost 3 hours, and you can't charge them for 3 hours because they're a good client.
Some people would say you can, but I totally agree. It's not always this cut and dry decision when it's, you were there for 3 hours, charge for your time. Some people would say that, but they're a good client. You don't want to lose them, and you want to show them some goodwill once in a while. And
they're in our managed service plan, and they're probably they're at the top tier. So they're paying the most out of all my small portfolio of clients. And I say small because it's small. We're not like HCS Technologies, are we?
No, there it is. No, not on that scale. No, it's true. I was going to bring up HCS Technology because you mentioned earlier about needing to erase the phone to get it supervised and re-added to the account with that level of management control. And I believe you're right. That's the case with iOS, iPadOS, those types of devices, tvOS, probably VisionOS. Incidentally, I haven't managed any VisionOS. I'm curious if you have. I'm sure we would have probably heard about it on the show by now. But any colleagues out there, tell us about your experience managing VisionOS. But Mac, I believe, is the exception. So it used to be the case that to get the Mac enrolled in the same way, supervised in Apple Business Manager and in whatever your MDM platform is, you would need to erase the Mac, just like we're talking about with the phone. However, HCS has this article on their resources page on their site. It's a PDF basically that explains the process of how to add the Mac to Apple Business Manager or School Manager without the need to erase the Mac. So I wish we had Mr. Apple himself here to explain this to us. But yes, HCS with their scale, they also have encountered probably more of these issues and navigated it on our behalf. So that resource is out there for people to look at how to do that with the Mac specifically, not the phone.
Terrific tools we have at our disposal.
Yeah. And these things have changed over time because that wasn't always the case. So it's important. But you also brought up the topic of when clients take matters into their own hands, and sometimes you're missing some of the information. And again, their approach is usually, I'm saving time. And in the short term, the concept of Pennywise, pound foolish comes into mind where, maybe they're saving time and money in the short term, but sometimes they end up paying for it in the long term. I feel like you have another example of that. Maybe you want to share how you responded to a client who wanted to do some of their own management.
Yeah, that was just top of mind today that I actually sent you and Sam the response. So we have an attorney, and a couple of years ago we had him, or he was using some sort of an Apple fashion server back in the day, and he wanted to have a new repository for his data, for his interoffice data. So we, of course, suggested Synology, and that's been running for him pretty flawlessly for the last 3.5 years. And I had told him that there were other things that we could do. You really need to back this up. So, if you want to engage us again, and he's got one machine that's on our MacWorks Total Care, that he's not really a player, as they say. He was asking, I was thinking about what you said all those years ago, and I really want to back it up. And so I sent him some just I didn't even send him instructions. I just said, we'd be happy to do this for you. We could set it all up. We can configure a local backup. You buy 2 drives and you could do them in rotation. So you could take them off site, and we would do that with hyper backup. And then we'd set you up with some sort of a cloud instance like Backblaze, and that all that data can be encrypted. And we could do that for you. It's going to take 2 or 3 hours of billable time, but
yeah, it's no big deal. It's very well thought out, and you get the outcome guaranteed basically that you want.
So, of course, I send this response to him right away in the hopes that I'm going to get a little bit of work.
Yeah.
A week goes by, nothing. So finally, I rattle the tree again and I ask him where he stands. And now another week goes by and he finally replies and says, oh, yeah, I've been looking at hyper backup and I'm going to set that up and explore that. And so smoke was coming out of my ears.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
And so I went to my best friend, ChatGPT, and I said, let's give a pointed reply that's not too snarky, that he should be doing what he does and I'll do what I do.
Yes, exactly. I love your response here. I see you shared it with Sam and I read through it. It's a great response because it says just what you said.
Yeah. So I'll paraphrase. Thank you for sharing your plan of implementing hyper backup. Geez, where'd you hear about that, guy?
Yeah, I would like to say that in there too, right?
Yeah, I completely understand your desire to take control of your own technology, much like you expertly navigate the complexities of the law. We dedicate our expertise to ensuring technology works reliably and securely to our clients.
Exactly.
Directed technology projects can be rewarding. We repeatedly see situations where well-intentioned setups later require significant troubleshooting. And then I went on to say, in many cases, you end up paying double. So
yeah, which is actually I'll throw in an example of that when you're finished here. But yes, double is probably the right estimate there.
Yeah, time and time again, we see this where people are trying to save money. They're trying to self-solve and they call up a number that they see in the screen that's Adobe, or they call up Hewlett Packard. This happened to me 2 successive times in the last couple of days where I had to bail out clients and they gave them a remote control and showed them a lot of FUD in the console.
Oh, you shared that with us too. That's always lovely. It's like showing processes that are just normal running on a Mac. And the client is, look, did you know this was happening? And it's like,
They say that to the client. And she paraphrased, but she said something like, the technician who connected to her computer remotely, that was nice, using Log Me In. Was saying, do you go to foreign websites a lot? Because
foreign websites.
And then they were saying something like, and they finished with, we think your Wi-Fi needs cleanup. And we can do that.
That makes sense. Yeah, Wi-Fi cleanup. We do that all the time. Yeah. I was just cleaning up somebody's Wi-Fi earlier. Yeah. No, it's great. And it's like insulting when they've already had someone. It's like they'll do anything but like to avoid calling you. It's just like a great feeling. It's like, I tried this, I tried that, I looked it up online, I let somebody connect, I had somebody over my house. Finally, I'm calling you.
Yeah.
They told me like all of these totally incorrect things. So can you help me? And it's just, now I'm basically disavowing you of all of this bad information first, probably having to run some scans to make sure they're not still in your Mac. Did you pay them something? Did you give them? We have to change all your passwords now. That's before we even get to solving your original problem, which is going to take 5 minutes, by the way. So like, what? It's just, it's frustrating, man. It happens all the time. And you get these calls. I've joked on the show before where they will say to me, I talk to my IT guy and I'm like, who am I? What do you mean you talk to your IT? Have I never met your IT guy? I thought I was your IT guy. I'm a little bit insulted. It's just weird. I don't know. It's a funny dynamic sometimes. And
when we engage with them, like in these cases of the printers, one printer needed a firmware update and the other printer, you just needed to download the HP app so it could remotely connect to it during, I think it uses NFC or Bluetooth initially to set the password. And then she was off and running. And I took care of her in 5 minutes.
Man, I should have called you for my sister's printer. I've had 2 or 3 HP like debacles lately. One was my sister's printer that I bought her because I was there for her wedding and she was trying to print her wedding vows on her printer like the day before the wedding. We were all going to head to the hotel, the venue, whatever. And her printer wouldn't work. And I'm like, I was struggling with her printer. We're like, for the hour, eventually I couldn't fix it. I'm like, this printer is a piece of junk. Like, I'm going to buy you a new printer. So bought her a new printer. That printer dies 6 months later. And I'm remotely walking her through, trying all this stuff. it keeps giving an error that basically like you can reset it. You can go back through all the setup from scratch. And then it gets to the point where you have to add it to your HP account or it will not let you print anything. You have to like marry it to HP. And that's the part that wouldn't work. I keep getting an error from HP's side, like the printer couldn't be added or whatever. And then you look it up and you can maybe go online and go into your online account and remove the printer. So it shows up in one location on her online account, but it doesn't show up in another location. And so anyway, I mean, it was just like a huge debacle. I thought we could make you a new HP account. That's the only thing I can think of is maybe it just can't be re-added because it thinks it's already there because it was there until it crapped out. It's like, she ended up buying herself a new printer, just giving up.
Third printer.
I'm totally insulted. I'm just like, yeah. And I feel totally defeated by this printer. But to your point, sometimes if they call you at the beginning of this process, I've had this all the time. You walk them through either power cycling the printer and then it's good to go, or worst case, like you just go back through the setup. Part of this is HP has transitioned from what used to be Easy Start or HP or 123.HP, whatever. They had an app and it was downloaded from their website. Now they have an HP app. It's not HP Easy whatever or HP Start. It's just HP and it's downloaded through the Mac App Store. So that's a whole new workflow. But yeah, I don't know. So I think that they've been doing weird things that have caused some of these issues lately with my clients. But yeah, when they Google it and they find the phony support, which is amazing that it's still a scam, they end up with more problems. And now there's the risk that they've let someone in their system. So turns what should be a simple issue into a snowball. But yeah, here's another example of a client where if they had called you, it would have been 15 minutes, but now it's an on-site that takes 2 hours. So we had a client hire us to spec new network equipment. They actually wanted to move the existing equipment because they're reconfiguring their office that they lease. And so we went through that. And at the time, spec'd new equipment. And they said, we're going to have the ISP come and upgrade the connection. And we said, great, just let us know when that's scheduled. And we will adjust the network to accommodate because they're switching from coaxial with a static IP to fiber. They have no more need for static IPs. So the network has to be changed. We know this going in. We told them this. And so we get a call one day. Hey, the ISP is here. Do you need to do anything before oh, too late. They made the change already. It's not working. We're offline. And we're like, yeah, so that's what we talked about last week. And what? We didn't know this was scheduled. So, okay, we'll be there in an hour and we'll get you out of a jam. So we did that. It's all up and running. But of course, we couldn't fix it remotely or we couldn't make the change remotely because they didn't give us notice and they did the thing before they even called us. All we would have had to do was change from a static assigned IP address to a dynamic address with the ISP. That would have brought their connection down, but we would have done that like when the ISP was there. They would put in the new system and then they'd plug it in and we'd be up and running. Instead, Tim had to go there and get them out of a jam. So then they ask about the invoice weeks later. And they're like, why are we paying for what's this charge? And how come we're paying for travel? And first of all, this has been our policy for years now. This is the rate. Like none of this is a surprise. You just haven't needed us in a year on location. So it was surprising to them. And I kept this out of the email, but I'm going to have a phone call with the person, my point of contact, to be like, you know how someone, not you, but like someone in the company scheduled this thing and didn't tell us and we told you not to do it like that and they did it like that anyway and then that's why we had to come there. You would have paid us 15 minutes, which is included in your plan, rather than an hour and a half on site, and you wouldn't have lost the connection and been down for 2 hours. So it's like, it's not our fault if you just kept us in the loop. I don't like to place blame, but like when they're implying there's something that we did wrong or that could have gone differently, it's yes, if you had kept us in the loop and just called us first, that would have been your most efficient way of handling it. And now you paid, instead of 15 minutes, you paid an hour and a half or whatever it was.
Joe, I don't want to play the blame game here.
Yeah, that's my classic client story. Yeah. They don't like playing the blame game when they're to blame.
Would it have been possible if you had a point person in the building where you could have remoted into their computer?
Yes.
And then
I've done that. When it's
I've done that too,
after hours and it's, hey, you're going to be down all night and maybe, I don't know if Tim's even available tomorrow first thing. So let me try something here. If you're game, plug your phone into your Mac because then you have the wired USB connection for the personal hotspot. Meanwhile, they can still be joined to their Wi-Fi network and over Wi-Fi, maybe I can connect to the local IP of
The
the
console.
gateway. And then, so you can you can do some crazy stuff when you're pressed like that.
Serves them right.
Yeah.
Do a truck roll. Charge them an hour
no,
and a half.
exactly. At that point, I'm going to struggle. You're going to struggle. This may not work. We may have to roll a truck anyway. Look, the right solution is he's got to show up now. We'll get a client out of a jam. We'll bend over backwards. We'll give them free guidance through email. We'll go out of our way to try to support them in the way that works for them. But when it's like this, where we're all struggling and we don't even know if it's going to work, and Tim could be there in an hour or whatever, that was the right solution. It's funny. You get questioned later, like
wasn't my favorite client up in Litchfield, was it?
No, no. Otherwise, you probably would have heard about it.
I'm available.
Yeah.
So, quick one here. My wife inadvertently, and it happens to the best of us, she spilled a little bit of water, and her computer, her new MacBook Air M4, got a side splash on the keyboard. Oh. So I stayed really cool. It happened when I was there. We turned it upside down, turned it off, dried it off. And I said, I know what I'll do. I'm an ACN. I got all kinds of tools. So I go in the basement and I get the heat gun, the Panasonic heat gun.
Don't tell me you melted the keys.
It melted I melted
No, seriously? Oh, yes. No. That's a little too much heat.
I mean, it wasn't like a Salvador Dali painting. The melting
off the side of the...
Yeah. But it was... The keys are a little... They get a little warp in them.
Funny.
So
those keys are weird. I don't think it's entirely your fault.
She said, if there's any bright spot here, lucky you didn't do this for a client.
For a client, you learned that lesson.
Yeah, it's going to cost me $300. But I told her if there was anything that lit up underneath the keyboard just with a little bit of water, maybe when we went to trade it in a couple of years from now, we wouldn't get as much because they said water damage or something like that.
That's true. So
I don't know. I'm out $300 now.
Wow. For the keys or for the liquid spill or both?
The screen, a cracked screen, I guess, is only $100. But
wait, you said cracked screen? Oh no, that's if you had a cracked screen. Yeah. Wait, do you have a cracked screen also? Did I miss something?
No. Okay. I'm telling you that if you just had a cracked screen because you had a pencil stuck in there and you closed the lid and it cracked, I think they charge you $100. But if you do a liquid spill, it's a $300 charge.
Okay. And that's with AppleCare Plus, obviously, on there. So AppleCare Plus. Wow. Yeah. So you don't think the melted keys, they're going to say what happened here? Okay.
No, because I even told the rep, I said, I tried to dry it off and we melted some keys.
Yeah.
All of these work. They're just a few warped on the right-hand side of the keyboard.
I hope you didn't tell him you're an Apple partner or
of course not.
Or anything. Yeah. You don't want to. He's going to tell his buddies I had another call from the Apple Partner Network. Those partners of ours with their heat guns, they're out in full force again. No, I've definitely thought about doing that. So that is a good fair warning for people.
It seems like the replaceable keys were a little bit more robust.
When you used to be able to. Yeah.
But these are really tender, so you got to be really careful when brazing your MacBook.
You sure do. The keys, I'm sure you've seen people with keys wear down, like they physically wear down from use, which I always find surprising. I don't have that on my wireless keyboard, which is like a hand-me-down. Or no, I bought this one because it's got the Touch ID, but it's 2 or 3 years old or whatever, and I have no visible wear. But I've seen other people do. And my wife had the MacBook Air that I now use for testing and all. And this has happened on her last 2 or 3 MacBook Airs where you can see the keys where she rests her fingers or uses most often or whatever, that the letters are literally worn away. I'm like, what is it certain people have certain acidity or not or whatever, where it can wear it down. I'm just surprised that Apple can't make keys that don't wear out like that and don't melt apparently from a heat.
That is part of it. And it's also like potato chips, I think. Ashley's eating too many potato chips.
And then touching it. Yeah, wait, it could be in the food. That's a good point. Maybe it's what's on.
And for all you British listeners, we're talking about crisps.
Crisps, yeah, exactly.
Crisps.
Yeah. That's a fun word to say, actually. Crisps. Yeah.
So all kinds of,
what else you got?
All kinds of havoc in my life.
It sounds like it, man.
Another project that's in the works, and I still have not received that check that we've talked about in prior shows from Drive Savers for the $5,000 recovery. I've got another recovery now for an educational client where the head of school let a Drobo fester and rot on his desk. He was warned 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
Bundled up the drives, send them off to Drive Savers, and it's about 9 terabytes. And we got a quote for around $11,400 with the discounts.
Oof.
And yeah, and I prepped this client ahead of time. I said, look, we had this other client, and I redacted all the information and I sent it off to them to show them, like, this is what it cost. And this is only a fraction of the amount of data that you have. And we're going to ask for an educational discount. And Drive Savers does give an extra 5%. So if you're a Drive Savers partner, you get 10% off. Plus they gave them an extra 5. And even with that, we were at 11,004.
I always wonder about that, though. Do you think they're quoting it with the understanding that they're going to be discounting the rate? Because they're just making up numbers anyway. When you say it's not making up numbers, but I imagine there's some leeway there where it's not just it's not an exact cost like per terabyte or whatever. So
yeah,
I know they are giving you 10% off and 5 for the education, but they make up the number anyway. So
yeah, one of the things they said in the quote was that if we only are able to recover partial amount of the data, we'll adjust our price accordingly. So I guess they look at it as we're still doing the work. So we still have to recover the work. We have to, because they start out by cloning every single drive. So in this case, they had to clone 5 drives that are probably underperforming at this point because they're old drives. So that'll take a little while. It's not like somebody has to stand there and turn a crank while the cloning crank. So a lot of it's automated, but they still had to put in the time. So I don't know. Yeah, there's probably a lot of padding there, but they probably have a lot of overhead.
I imagine a lot of it is probably not automated because it's really a case-by-case thing, like where, I don't know, I imagine a trained technician needs to actually listen to the drive and see the report of what's happening. And is that drive malfunctioning? Great, cut power. And then like you have to do a data recovery process on that one drive and then clone it or whatever. And then so eventually like to get to X number of usable drives to then rebuild the RAID, because that's a whole other level of, and maybe that part's automated. If it says these 5 drives came from a Drobo of this generation, like their software can do the rest, I'd imagine. But some of it's a physical process where like somebody needs to probably be overseeing it. And certainly moving one drive in and one drive out and all of that part too.
And the other thing is they have to review the data too, because they're not going to send somebody and say, yep, we got it all. And then the client starts looking at the JPEGs and they're partially recovered JPEGs. It's the banding where you get strips of the picture, not the full picture. So I would imagine there's a lot of quality assurance built into what they do. A lot of, not heavy lifting, a lot
oversight.
Of QC.
Yeah, exactly. QC, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Wow. So the ante on that one, that's another $11,000.
So the head of school got back to me right away and said, ooh, that's a heavy lift. Yeah. And I'm like, I prepped you for this. He said, just send them back. And I'm like, are you sure? Because it's a big package.
Yeah.
Maybe for another time. And they're looking at budgetary concerns and stuff like that. But it's like,
I see.
Yeah, but you don't want to be shuttling this stuff back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because guess what? Drive Savers is probably not going to pay for Federal Express
another shipment. Yeah.
So it's still in play. He's going to give them a call. I said, that's what you should do is call them. I've done as much as I could do being the liaison here, but now you've got to take the ball and run with it.
Yeah, sometimes, Drive Savers you can negotiate a little bit on the client's behalf, maybe with various companies. But yeah, if hearing from the client themselves is definitely, it can be more effective with this kind of thing. Yeah, that makes sense. Wow.
If you're listening to the show and you have those clients that are it's falling on deaf ears and you tell them about, and they're running Drobos, God forbid, man, we would have spent a fraction of the money. We could have had replicated the data 3 times over and it wouldn't even come anywhere near what we're looking at here.
The recovery cost. It's a classic example. I think the theme of the show is Pennywise, pound foolish. I can't see spending that money. Okay, but there's a risk. And then later you end up having to spend 10 times that money. And at that point, you don't have the choice. It's a tough lesson. I don't know. People sometimes need to experience that visceral pang of data loss before they will understand why to part with this money that seems like it's just for a little bit extra that they don't really need, i.e. backup, but they do need it. So it's a tough one. It's this classic example.
And even and that's assuming for a moment that the data is recoverable. You know, how many times have we've had people where Drive Savers has taken apart the drive and it is shrapnel inside.
Oof. Yeah,
shavings,
exactly.
metal shavings.
Yep.
I don't know.
No, it's a rough one.
So the other big event that happened over the weekend was I maintain a newsletter, which I do once a month because sponsor the show.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Tidbits newsletter, right?
Tidbits Content Network, yep.
Content Network provides you monthly content that you could post anywhere. You could post it on social media. You could post it on the web and just on a blog that you maintain, or you could actually send it out to your clients on a monthly basis. And you could even send it out. There's enough content there that you could actually send out 3 newsletters a month. I try not to do that. I try not to rattle the cage for too long. Because sometimes clients get annoyed and then they just unsubscribe and you're just shooting yourself in the foot.
Do you ever hear back from people? That's what I was wondering. Besides the passive, it's not this, but passive aggressive unsubscribes that you're going to get, do you ever get somebody actually replying and being like, take me off your list on a grumble kind of thing?
No,
I've had that once or twice, and that always hurts a little because I'm like, I send like maybe 2 of these per year. So it's really infrequent. It's not a burden for anybody. And it's usually not marketing. It's informational and then maybe a little marketing. But so it's funny to me when they respond with prejudice. Never contact me again. And that rarely happens. But more so, You're right. You'll get people unsubscribing if you generate too much noise.
Yeah. And some just unsubscribe because they don't even look at it and they don't even know it's you,
Yeah.
So it's frustrating. But with this most recent tale, I set myself up to possibly getting that, because as you accumulate your mail list, there's people who you might visit on a regular basis and they, for whatever reason, like you said, just has chosen to unsubscribe. They don't want to get it. So once you've done that, a service like MailChimp can keep track of that for you. So that
which is really important. So you know that like you're not going to send them a message again and then they can like really be annoyed with you.
Because if you try to re-add it, you get a message saying, no, you've already taken this person off, or this person has declined to be the recipient. So I use MailChimp. I was using the free account and I've been using it and sending regular content out on a monthly basis as early as 2018. And I believe that's basically the same time that you and I may have signed up to the Tidbits Content Network. So it's something that pays for itself. We always talk about this. It's an extra charge every month. What isn't an extra charge? And if it reminds, my wife tells me there's no such word as remind. So I have to correct myself. Okay. Yes, there's no such word, Joe.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I remind myself, or if I remind my client, that I'm still here and this is what we do. Because sometimes if you haven't heard from a client in a while, they'll reach out to you. Of course, maybe this doesn't happen to you because you're not quite as long in the tooth as I am, but they'll go, are you still doing that Mac stuff?
Oh, no, I get that too. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Totally.
I don't feel as bad. Well, you got a little gray in your beard.
Yeah, I got the gray. I got enough gray where they're like, are you still kicking? Are you still alive? Yeah, are you still alive? Always nice to hear. I'm like, what percent of you would have guessed that I was dead? It was like 10% chance. I just want to know the number. How do you perceive me? Anyway, go on. Yeah.
And I'm cheap. I don't like to spend money for a lot of things, but there's value in staying in touch with your clients. And that's why the Tidbits Content Network works for me. I know it works for you. It works for Sam. And we all use it in different ways. You post a lot of content on your website, or you generate social media posts. Anyway, so I also maintain, there's like an app on your iPhone where you can look at your MailChimp opens and stuff like that. And then how many people, how many clicks. All right, I'm dragging this out. All right, so let's go right to the chase. So I would get these notifications once in a while on my phone. You've added 30 new clients to your mailing list. And I'm like, that's really weird. That sounds really high. But I'm thinking
30? Yeah. Huh.
It might have been 19. I don't know. And I'm thinking like, that's a bug. That's way too many. If I had 2 in a year, somebody independently signs up, and they can go on to the blog if they stumble on it from my website. They can automatically sign up.
That's what I was wondering. That makes sense. Yeah, you'll get a few from that. Yeah.
In a blue moon. Anyway, so I had roughly, my nucleus of the mailing list was roughly around 457 people since 2018 and even earlier.
Okay.
That was okay. And And I get the notification again the next month later, you've added 19 people. Blah, blah, blah. What triggered me diving deep into MailChimp this past weekend was the fact that I was using some sort of a template from a company called Stamp Ready. And they're still in business because with MailChimp, you can customize your own templates. And whatever I found with the free plan wasn't working for me. So I stumbled on a site and I got some HTML code and I was able to generate what I thought was a suitable 3 news items newsletter with a banner and the name of my company and some links and stuff like that. And I had been pulling these images, which were stored on Stamp Ready. And somehow I stumbled on looking at my monthly newsletter, and a lot of these images were not loading in, like an image of like tech support or an image of Facebook or Twitter. Just the social icons weren't loading in. And so I started to dive a little bit deeper, and I'm seeing went into the code and I started to try to load some of those individual items in the browser, and they wouldn't load. So Stamp Ready just pulled the plug on whatever archive I was tapping into. And ironically, I was able to find this pretty early on. So it looks like it just happened. But the interesting thing is, just as a sidebar to this, is all your earlier newsletters will load with the broken JPEGs now or broken PNGs because they're no longer hosted at the site you were referencing.
Makes sense.
So I'm like, okay, I got to tweak my thing. And I'm like, oh man. And I knew this day was coming because I had been using it since 2018. And I knew there would be a day of reckoning where I would have to retweak this whole thing. For some reason, it took me a long time to do. It didn't take me a long time to fix. And I was able to take an image of the new iPhone 17 and the pumpkin orange, cosmic orange, and put that as my new banner. And I found some nice colorful images for tech support and tech monitoring or whatever those images I used, found some icons. I've self-hosted them in a subfolder on the MacWorks website. So I got all that working. I removed all the references to Stamp Ready, which I should have done anyway, because a lot of them were HTTP and not HTTPS.
That could be why some of them broke, maybe. I wonder. Yeah.
No, because I tried loading them in as an HTTPS. I thought of that, of course.
Okay.
So here's where the bad part happens. So
there's a bad part. Okay, that's already a lot of work, but go ahead.
So I'm looking at my audience, and my audience is near 1,000 people. So all those messages that I was getting for months and months was legitimate or legitimate notifications. And my audience, half of it, 500 contacts, roughly speaking, 550 contacts were all BS email, BS prefix at gmail.com, garbage characters at gmail.com, hundreds and hundreds. Okay. So no problem. I'll just go in there and I'll do a mass delete. So I said, show me 100 contacts a page. I select them. I hit delete. I refresh again, do it.
So this is sorted by new or something. So these are the most recent ones coming in.
Chronologically.
Okay. Got it.
And as soon as I get to the very last page, like the 550th page, I see some of my historical contacts showing up. So I individually check them off on that last page and I hit delete. At the moment that I hit delete, everything was gone. So I know I know, right? So I know I didn't do this by mistake because I've been through that before. We've done it with clients going into their Gmail account and doing
select all at delete. Oh, what happened? Yeah.
But it wasn't ever an option to select all. It was only to select the 100 presented contacts that were on that page. And then I hit delete. And either something bad happened on their back end or somehow through this, we'll call it this infiltration, somehow attached itself in some way to my legitimate contacts. So I have no idea. So I had 0 contacts at that point.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. And I didn't
I'm reacting in real time, but you did share this with us and I know where this is going. And this is a warning for everybody out there.
Right. So the very first thing I should have done was I should have done a CSV export in MailChimp before I did anything. And of course, I don't need to do that because I'm a tech guy and I'm going to get out the heat gun and I'm going to dry off the keys and your computer's going to be just as good as new. Honey, don't worry about it.
Oh man.
Meanwhile, we got a dolly painting on her
Yeah, on
the
the
surface
keyboard.
of her
Yeah.
computer on the
Oh my
keyboard.
God.
I couldn't reach out to them. You couldn't, like, there was some,
Yeah.
I don't even think you could email them at that point.
No.
It's like free, go F yourself, pretty much. You've been writing for free on our system for a long time. So
I've been wondering that because I have too. Yeah. It's just it's amazing that they bother giving you this much for free, but I imagine that it's like, it's costing them something. Yeah.
So I upgrade to $13 a month. That was the lowest tier, up to 1,000 contacts. So I'm in range because I've got 0 now. So I've got a long way to go.
So you're covered. Yeah, yeah.
And so I do online chat, and I did it twice with 2 different people. And they're like, "Yeah, we can't do that. We can't recover that for you." And I'm like, wait a minute. I know I do this like a similar kind of work for a living. Like, I know you have backups. I know you have redundancy. What do you mean you can't recover? I don't care if it's from yesterday. Give me a month ago, 2 months ago, a year ago.
You might even prefer a month ago because it wouldn't have all these recent crap additions there. Right. Yeah.
Just give me something to hang my hat on. And they're like, no, we don't do that. You should, you know what you should have done though? You should have made a CSV backup. And I got a little.
Oh, great point. Yeah.
I got a little pointed. I was going to use a different word. I got a little pointed, and I said, it's like me saying to a client, that they lost their data. And I'm saying, you should have made a backup.
Yeah.
We're going to say that in a nicer way, but we're just not going to go like so anyway, so they couldn't do anything.
Nicer way.
Oh, so I was able, so I was able to import 187 contacts from exporting a CSV. I'm using currently Square as my payment gateway. So I grabbed some from there and I culled a list together. And I have thousands of contacts in my regular contacts app. So I culled together a group and exported that and looked at some of the big players and made sure they were included. And so that's where I'm at right now. So I re-imported it. I sent something out yesterday. Yeah, you got to be careful. So if the very first thing you do, if you are, no matter who you're using for a mail service, do that today. As soon as you listen to the show, export a CSV file of all your contacts.
Yeah, great tip. Man, yeah, that's a rough one. I'm wondering if they will, like when you import the names, did you get a prompt from MailChimp, like you said earlier, about, oh, you can't add this person because they've already opted out or anything?
Well, initially, yes. Yes. I was getting some that were not able to successfully import, and you had to create a new group, essentially.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what their terminology for it was.
So you actually can work around the fact that they've opted out.
Yeah. And I just deleted the old group and I called it MacWorks 2025 or whatever.
Okay. And then you could start fresh there essentially. And then, just let people opt out again if they need to. But yeah, that's a tough one. Obviously, the way I would say this to a client is that you get what you pay for. It's a free service. You can't really get support because it's just free. Yeah. Lesson learned. And hopefully you save someone else some time out there who's
hopefully
the same thing.
But the other thing too is I don't know whether to maintain this $13 a month account. They claim that
free. Yeah.
Will go back to free. But then they were saying something low. If you go back to free, they're not letting you choose your time for your campaign.
Yeah.
And that was always a feature that I did have.
No. No, I thought it was that you can't choose. Is that what it was? I think I saw recently was like there's a feature where they will choose the time to send to specific people based on what they know about those people, or maybe the time zone or things like that.
Oh, I see.
It's something like that where they will try to send it when it will be most likely to be like read, basically and opened. There's another feature where you can do A/B testing of like subject lines. So you can, I don't really care. It's a relatively small database on my side like yours where it's not going to make a marginal difference, but for a mass mailing it's an interesting feature to have. If you have I assume this would be scale for 10,000 and up or something, where you really want to improve the open rate and you're not sure which subject line. And so you can create 2 different subject lines and it will send to a small subset of your people, one or the other. And then depending on which one performs better, send that one to the rest of your mailing list. It's like advanced features, which sure, you can pay for that. But yeah, the way I use it, the other one, of course, is don't include the badge about sent by MailChimp or whatever, but I don't mind that. Like it is sent by
I don't mind it either.
And you can do most of I think think you can have your own custom domain and your verified email and all that. So it comes from your email. So you can do a lot of this with the free service, and it's advertising for them to be a bigger player on the mass marketing.
Yeah, so I must have misunderstood that because I was always sending out like at a Tuesday at 4 a.m.
Same.
And everybody So as long as I could do that.
Yeah. Might be worth, going back to free. Now that you learn your lesson, you back it up on a periodic basis. I always found that to be a little bit of a burden, getting people into my mailing list because, and I'm glad I'm not alone because I'm hearing your process about Square and contacts and these different sources. And for me, it's Google Contacts, which is, in theory, I could integrate that with Repair Shopper. Repair Shopper is my practice management, as I call it, for sending invoices and ticketing and all that kind of stuff. So we have their emails, like basically when I sign a new client, I'm adding them to Google Contacts with all the details and I have a shared group in my Google Contacts that's shared, I think still using a separate app that's integrated with the Google Workspace account called like Shared Contacts for Google or something along those lines, a very generic name, so that it can be shared among my team. So that's all happening on the Google side. But then there's a Repair Shopper. So I then add them into Repair Shopper with a subset of the info, like the address where the service is taking place, but not. And so whatever, most of the same info. So I'm entering it there too. Then for the mailing list, when I'm going to do a newsletter, I sort my list of customers in Repair Shopper based on when they were added. And I look at when I last updated my mailing list, essentially in MailChimp, and I will manually add name and email address from Repair Shopper into MailChimp. I'll also specify if they're on a monthly plan, whether they're broadly speaking a residential client or a company. So then I can do sub-targeted mailings in MailChimp, send this out to my residential clients, send a different version to my companies, because sometimes it's a little bit different how you address them.
Yeah.
And if they're on a plan and something's included versus they're not on a plan and I'm trying to sell them that service. So it's nice to have that classification in MailChimp. So it's all manual though. And I feel like sometimes a dope, like going in here and like copying and pasting between Contacts app and Repair Shopper, and then later updating MailChimp from there. And it's like, in theory, this could all be integrated. And of all the people, like I should be able to integrate this, but I just haven't spent the time to bother doing it. So it's all different sources up until now. But
yeah, I mean, there's people who make their career doing this and their performance is graded on metrics, analytics that they're going to get. So they're going to say, hey, since I came on board, you're getting that many more opens, that much more engagement.
That's true.
But it's hard for us to be juggling other things. And I find some of it annoying. So as much as I can automate it and just do something, so I feel like I'm being effective, but not do too much of a deep dive. I actually buried the lead on this story. The other thing was that, and this is probably the most important takeaway aside from exporting your CSV contacts, is that the reason why this happened was they could go onto my blog and they could just pump in their email address and hit subscribe, and there was no secondary opt-in.
That's what I was wondering. How did you get a MailChimp form that didn't have an "Are you a bot" step or like a double opt-in, like we're going to send you an email and then confirm that you really want to be added to this?
That's an option. Yeah. That's an option in MailChimp, and that was always turned off forever. Huh. And so that's where the problem was. And of course, with this new instance of it, I turn that on. So the person puts in their email address on the blog, and then they have to get an email and confirm that they indeed want to subscribe. But that doesn't preclude you from manually adding a contact. So let's say you just visited somebody, their new client, you can just go into MailChimp into the back end and just add their
That's how I do it, yeah. No, I'm wondering like what the scam was. So like, sure, you didn't have a double opt-in kind of thing. Anyone could go and put in anyone's email address and whatever. And I've seen those forms abused when clients get inundated with, I don't know what you want to call it, but like a signal to noise attack where the hacker has access to the client's, maybe not their email, but gets into or is going to try to get into one of their high value accounts other than email. And the hacker knows that the client is going to get an email from this company like, hey, you've changed your PayPal password or something. The client is going to see that and flag that and be like, what the heck's going on? Let me log in and fix this. Or if this wasn't you, click here. They're going to click there and do that process. So the hacker wants to cover their tracks in advance by generating a lot of noise. And so they have a list of all of these different websites that have forms that allow someone to be signed up for an email newsletter, or like basically an email newsletter is the most common one, where they know that the customer will get the email, about having been signed up for this newsletter, and times 1,000, right, per hour or something like that. There's no hope that this person is going to notice the email from PayPal because they're just going to be like, oh, I'm being spammed. That's annoying. They don't understand that this is actually like a serious thing, because there's that spam, so to speak, is covering the tracks of the hacker. That's actually, so it's almost, and it can in fact be like considered a distributed denial of service attack. Like you can't use your email because you're getting inundated with a bunch of email. So maybe your form is being used for that. But if it's a bunch of like crazy, looks like throwaway Gmail addresses, like what's the scam? Like,
what's the grift?
Yeah. So I still don't really understand why that all even happened in the first place. But,
who knows?
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Those darn kids. It's those kids on the internet.
There you go. That's pretty much what it's got to be. Yeah. I have, just to tease this for probably a future Patreon show, because it's talking a little bit more about marketing of our services and some of the behind the scenes administrative stuff that we go through. But I have a hooray for Jerry story. And the tease here is that you talked recently about using Canva. You mentioned Canva. I think you mentioned it again today.
Yeah.
And you've used that to create your marketing for your monthly service plan. And you shared that with me and Sam, and you talked about it on the show. And I thought, counterpoint to Jerry's use of Canva, I'm going to use Pages because I'm the Apple fanboy. I'm the first party guy, and I'm going to use Pages because Apple is good at marketing and Apple has Pages, and I like desktop apps. So I'm going to use Pages, and I'm going to do what Jerry did, but I'm going to make my own little version of this thing. So I'm like, okay, fire up Pages, and let's see here. Okay, templates. Yeah, they have a few little flyers and business brochures and things. And so was not impressed really with their offering, but found one that I thought I could make work for me. And so I opened it up. I spent some time in there, and it just looked bad. It just looked like a rinky-dink thing that like a guy like me made. It looked like I made it myself. You know what I mean? It just did not look professional. So I had originally noted this topic down as like counterpoint to Jerry's use of Canva. I did it with Pages, right? So I started doing it, and then like actually like erase. Jerry was right all along. Canva is the way to go. So I'll talk more about how I pivoted back to your playbook of use Canva and use ChatGPT, make your image. I was really impressed with ChatGPT's image generation this time around. It seems to be really good at, I want an image that looks basically like, how would I describe this if I wanted someone to literally go like stage a photo shoot for this thing? Like ChatGPT does it in 5 seconds, and it was a very professional image. I was impressed that it also had continuity. Like I had it generate one image with a group of 4, and then I had it generate another image with, again, as I described it, like an Apple consultant giving service to one person remotely. The guy, the Apple consultant, looks the same in both. Like I'm like, how did you know to do that? I didn't even ask it to be consistent, but it was consistent about the appearance of this service provider. It was really impressive.
ChatGPT learned, they learned a lot from working with me on
probably. Yeah, and I find it really interesting that it knows, I forget what it knows about me. So I'll go in and I'll start a new thread and a new topic, whatever. And I actually also used it in the course of creating this flyer. I had it help me with some of the marketing in general for my plans. And so I'm talking to it about my marketing. And I, at first, left out the actual name of my plan, and I called it like Company Co. plan, whatever. Cause I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to give it all this info. And I don't know why I did that. I just was like, let me make this more generic and just have it give me some advice about this. But it basically didn't tell me this, but I know what you're talking about. Like you're talking about your plan. It's called CIMAC Prime. And it just gave me information that was relevant to like my naming convention and my existing marketing and style. It's actually amazing what it knows about you that you forget that it knows.
Did it say, come on, Joe?
Who do you think you're talking to here? Yeah. So I know more than you'll ever know about yourself even. Yeah, it was a really interesting process, but it was very effective. And this is, again, more Patreon stuff, but it helped me generate a terms of service that I've been wanting to do for like years. And hesitating because I'm like, I got to hire a lawyer. I need to like hash this out with somebody and figure out what it is that I want. What kind of liabilities do I want to be protected by? It just put stuff in there that I know is important, but I didn't even know to ask. And it wasn't exactly right I had to tweak it and stuff, which of course, but like a great starting point. And it's amazing. It's able to like, if I wanted it to be like 10 pages long and a bunch of legalese, it could have done that. I knew that I wanted it to be like, I wanted it to cover me, but not box me in. I wanted it to not sound too much legalese, but still be effective. It just knew all that. I didn't have to describe what I was looking for. So
That's great.
I'm really impressed. But it all was inspired by your process that you shared on the show about Canva and ChatGPT. So
I lead by example,
for Jerry.
Joe.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I lead by example.
Yeah. With ChatGPT, is very effective. You put a heat gun in your hand, now you got problems. Yeah. But again, you're led by example. Now we can all learn that example of be careful with those heat guns and keyboards.
I break things so you don't have to.
Yeah, no, literally. I'm sure there's people you're saving a lot of money out there. So
yeah.
Good stuff, man. And yeah, lots more to talk about on a future recording, both on Patreon and otherwise. And if you wonder about this, what's this Patreon thing we're talking about? It's more of this full-length shows that we talk about more in-depth behind-the-scenes topics like marketing our services, like pricing our services, like managing employees, like managing clients. So you've heard the spiel, the pre-recorded thing. There's a lot more content there. So if you want more content, there's a lot more out there on Patreon. So go to commandcontrolpower.com and click on support. You can follow us on Patreon and you'll get immediate access to the entire back catalog on Patreon, and new patron-only shows appear in your podcast feed from that point forward. So we invite you to join us on there. It's a small monthly fee to get access to that extra content, and we'd really welcome your support. And thank you all for listening to Command Control Power and for supporting us. Really appreciate it. See you soon.
Jerry does his voices of customers of all kinds.
Am I on the cloud?
Joe spins his deeply detailed yarns all the time.
I have a whole story about this.
Sam is on the road again, phoning in from a hotel.
At least we know where I am.
Half a century combined of Apple